My name is Alexis, and I learned something devastating on the day I buried my mother. Sometimes the person you trust most in the world will rob you blind while your tears are still wet. The morning started with rain. Gray October sky weeping onto the parking lot of Morrison & Sons funeral home, where my mother lay in her mahogany casket wearing the navy dress she'd picked out herself 3 months before cancer finally won. On her left hand was her wedding ring, a simple gold band worn thin from 40 years of marriage. On her right hand was the ring that would change everything. The Cartier emerald, 5 carats surrounded by diamonds, set in platinum. Worth exactly $52,000, according to the insurance appraisal I'd helped Mom get updated last year. It had been her mother's ring, passed down from her mother before that. 4 generations of women in our family had worn it, and Mom had always said it would be mine someday. When I'm gone, she'd told me during one of those terrible chemo sessions, her voice barely above a whisper. That ring goes to you, Alexis. It's been waiting for you your whole life. I'd protested, of course. Told her she wasn't going anywhere, that we'd beat this thing together. But she'd gripped my hand with surprising strength and made me promise to take care of it. Promise me, she'd said. Don't let anyone else get their hands on it. It belongs with you. I promised. My sister Bridget had been in the hallway that day, supposedly getting coffee, but probably listening to every word. She always had a talent for being in the right place at the wrong time, especially when money was involved. Now, standing beside Mom's casket in my black dress and heels that pinched my toes, I watched Bridget play the grieving daughter perfectly. Dabbing her eyes with tissues, accepting condolences with a trembling voice, even fainting dramatically into her husband's arms when the pastor read Mom's favorite Bible verse. It was a performance worthy of an Oscar, which made sense. Bridget had been performing for our mother her entire adult life. The prodigal daughter who could do no wrong, even when she was doing everything wrong. The one who borrowed money she never paid back, who missed family dinners for more exciting plans, who only called when she needed something. But somehow Mom always forgave her, always made excuses, always bailed her out. While I was the reliable one. The daughter who visited every week, who handled Mom's medical appointments, who took unpaid leave from my job to drive her to chemo sessions. The one who held her hand while she threw up, who helped her shower when she was too weak to stand, who slept in the hospital chair for 6 straight weeks during her final stay. But none of that seemed to matter when it came time for Mom to update her 6 months ago. I'm leaving everything 50-50, Mom had announced during one of our Sunday visits. The house, the savings, the jewelry. Everything split equally between my girls. Bridget had smiled sweetly and hugged Mom, murmuring about how fair and generous she was. I'd smiled too, but inside, something cold had settled in my chest. 50-50 meant Bridget would get half of the ring's value, despite never once asking how Mom was feeling or helping with a single doctor's appointment. But I'd accepted it. Mom's choice, Mom's money, Mom's jewelry. Even if it felt like a slap in the face after everything I'd sacrificed. The funeral service was beautiful. The church was packed with people whose lives Mom had touched. Her book club, her bridge partners, neighbors she'd helped through their own hard times. Pastor Williams spoke about her kindness, her faith, her devotion to her daughters. I cried real tears. Bridget cried louder. After the service, everyone gathered at the funeral home for one last viewing before we closed the casket forever. The line stretched around the room as people said their final goodbyes, many touching Mom's hands or whispering private messages I couldn't hear. I stood beside the casket like a sentinel, accepting handshakes and hugs, listening to stories about how wonderful my mother had been. Bridget flitted around the room, dramatic and tearful, making sure everyone saw her suffering. By 4 o'clock, the crowd had thinned. By 4:30, only family remained. By 5, even the aunts and uncles had headed home to prepare for the dinner gathering. I need a minute alone with her, Bridget announced, dabbing her eyes with a soggy tissue. Just 1 minute to say goodbye. Her husband nodded sympathetically. Take all the time you need, honey. The funeral director gestured for everyone to step into the hallway. Of course. We'll give you some privacy. I started to follow them, then stopped. Something in my gut told me to stay, to watch, to witness whatever was about to happen. Instead of leaving, I stepped behind the floral arrangement near the back wall, hidden but with a clear view of the casket. Bridget waited until the last person left the room. Then she waited another 30 seconds, head cocked like a bird listening for footsteps. When she was satisfied we were truly alone, her entire demeanor changed. The tears stopped. The trembling hands steadied. The grieving daughter disappeared, replaced by someone I barely recognized. She approached the casket with purpose, glancing once more toward the door. Then she reached for Mom's right hand, the hand wearing the emerald ring. I pulled out my phone and started recording. What happened next made my blood turn to ice water. Bridget gripped Mom's ring finger and twisted the ring, working it over the knuckle with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd thought about this moment many times. Mom's hand was stiff with rigor mortis, making the process difficult, but Bridget was determined. She pulled harder, bending Mom's finger at an angle that made me wince. The ring caught on the knuckle, and for a moment I thought it wouldn't come off. But Bridget persisted, twisting and pulling until finally, with a soft pop, the ring slid free. She held it up to the light for a moment, examining the emerald like she was checking for flaws. Then she slipped it into her purse, smoothed her dress, and summoned fresh tears to her eyes. "Goodbye, Mommy," she whispered loud enough for anyone outside to hear. "I love you so much." I kept recording until she walked toward the door, then quickly moved to rejoin the group in the hallway. By the time Bridget emerged, dabbing her eyes and sniffling, I was standing with the funeral director discussing final arrangements. "Ready?" her husband asked gently. "Ready," she said, leaning into him for support. "Let's go home." That night, at the family dinner, Bridget regaled everyone with stories about Mom. How much she loved her, how close they were, how she'd given anything for just one more day together. She even mentioned the ring. "Mom always said that emerald ring would go to Alexis someday," she told our Aunt Patricia with a sad smile. "I hope whoever gets it treats it with the respect it deserves." I said nothing, just watched and waited. The next morning, I called Mom's lawyer, Harrison Mitchell, and scheduled an appointment for Friday, exactly 3 days after the funeral. When Friday came, I walked into his downtown office carrying my phone and a flash drive. "Alexis, I'm so sorry for your loss," Mr. Mitchell said, settling behind his mahogany desk. "Your mother was a remarkable woman." "Thank you. I need to show you something about the will reading." I pulled out my phone and played the video. Mr. Mitchell watched in silence as Bridget systematically stole the ring from our mother's finger. His expression went from confusion to horror to professional anger. "I've never seen anything like this," he said quietly. "She stole from the deceased at the funeral?" "She did. And here's what I need you to know. That ring was specifically mentioned in Mom's will as part of the estate to be divided equally. Bridget has stolen property that legally belongs to both of us." Mr. Mitchell was already reaching for his legal pad. "This changes everything. Theft from an estate is a serious crime, but theft from the deceased before the will is even read." He shook his head. "She's opened herself up to both criminal charges and complete forfeiture of her inheritance." "What do you mean, complete forfeiture?" "Your mother's will contains a standard moral clause. If either beneficiary is found to have acted dishonestly regarding the estate, they forfeit their entire inheritance to the other party." He looked up from his notes. "Alexis, if we pursue this, your sister won't just lose the ring. She'll lose everything." The will reading was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I arrived early, wearing the same black dress I'd worn to the funeral. Bridget arrived 15 minutes late, her eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying all morning. She hugged me tight when she saw me. "I'm so glad we have each other," she whispered. "I don't know how I'd get through this without you." The ring was noticeably absent from her fingers, probably locked away in a safe deposit box somewhere. Mr. Mitchell wasted no time. "Before we begin the reading, I have some preliminary business to address." He looked directly at Bridget. "Bridget, is there anything you need to tell us about your mother's jewelry?" Bridget blinked innocently. "What do you mean?" "The emerald ring, specifically. The one that was on your mother's hand at the funeral." "Oh, that ring." Bridget's voice was steady, rehearsed. "I assume it's still at the funeral home." "Why?" Mr. Mitchell turned his laptop toward us and pressed play. The video filled the screen. Bridget approaching the casket, checking for witnesses, systematically removing the ring from Mom's finger. The audio picked up every sound: the scrape of metal against skin, her satisfied sigh when the ring finally came free, even the soft thud as she closed her purse. Bridget went white. Where did you get that?" "Your sister recorded you," Mr. Mitchell said calmly. "The question now is, what are you going to do about it?" "I can explain," Bridget started, but Mr. Mitchell held up his hand. "Let me explain something first. This video shows you committing theft from the estate before the will was read. Under the terms of your mother's will, Any beneficiary who acts dishonestly regarding estate property forfeits their entire inheritance. Bridget turned to me, panic replacing her practiced grief. Alexis, you can't let them do this. I'm your sister. We're all each other has left. You stole from Mom's dead body, I said quietly. At her funeral. While I was trusting you to say goodbye. It was always supposed to be yours anyway. I was just holding it for you. For 3 days? In your purse? Without mentioning it to me or the lawyer. Mr. Mitchell cleared his throat. Bridget, you have 2 choices. You can return the ring immediately and face criminal charges for theft. Or you can return the ring and accept complete forfeiture of your inheritance with no criminal prosecution. Bridget stared at him. You're saying if I give back the ring, I lose everything else too? That's exactly what I'm saying. The house, the savings account, the other jewelry, the car, everything goes to Alexis. That's not fair. It was just one mistake. It was theft from the dead, I said. At Mom's funeral. In front of her body. How is that just a mistake? Bridget looked between us, her face cycling through emotions like a slot machine. Finally, she reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet box. Here, she said, slamming it on the desk. Take it. Take everything. But don't pretend you're better than me, Alexis. You've wanted me out of the picture your whole life. I never wanted you out of the picture, I said. I just wanted you to act like you loved her while she was alive. Bridget signed the forfeiture papers with angry, sharp strokes. Then she stood up, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. Don't expect me to be at family gatherings anymore, she said. You got what you wanted. I got what Mom intended, I replied. She left everything to both of us because she believed we'd take care of each other. You chose differently. The door slammed behind her. 6 months later, I learned through our cousin that Bridget had moved to another state. Her husband filed for divorce after discovering she'd taken out credit cards in his name to pay legal fees for a different matter entirely. The ring theft, it turned out, wasn't her first brush with financial dishonesty. I still live in Mom's house now. I wear the emerald ring on special occasions, thinking about the 4 generations of women who wore it before me and how Mom trusted me to protect it. The video is still on my phone. Not because I enjoy watching it, but because it reminds me of something important. People show you who they really are when they think no one is looking. Bridget showed me exactly who she was in those 2 minutes by Mom's casket. Not a grieving daughter, not a loving sister, but someone who saw our mother's death as an opportunity for personal gain. The saddest part? If she'd just asked, I probably would have let her have the ring. Despite everything, she was still my sister, and Mom loved her. But she didn't ask. She waited until Mom couldn't say no, until Mom couldn't protect what was hers, until Mom couldn't choose who deserved her most precious possession. That choice revealed everything I needed to know about the person Bridget had become. And it cost her everything she could have had. Sometimes the most expensive mistakes aren't about money. They're about character. And character, once lost, is the hardest thing to get back. The ring sits in my jewelry box now, waiting for the next generation. When the time comes, I'll pass it on to someone who understands that love isn't something you steal in the dark. It's something you earn in the light, one small act of kindness at a time.